Two Chips One Podcast is brought to you by Mickey Mouse.
He talks like this at work. He says he has to tinkle on a regular basis.
Oh, sorry guys, I got a tinkle. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back.
Actually, it's good evening, everyone. Welcome back. How you all doing? I hope you had a splendid week from last week. I sure did. Brendan, how about yourself?
I just wanted to let you know that I'm resigning my position as the introducer. I said good afternoon instead of good evening.
Well, you could do the closing because I suck at that.
All right, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and I'll see. I'm not just kidding. But we made our first dollar.
Woohoo!
Thanks to all you guys streaming on Anchor and YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you guys listen to. We have hit $1 so far in streams. So thank you.
We're also on a new platform called Pandora. Ever hear of it? I think that I use Pandora for my podcast. I'm not going to lie. I am still in the ancient times. But I love Pandora. Check us out on Pandora if that's what you use, because that's what I use, and I actually listen to us on Pandora. Anywho. So, Brendan, we have questions, don't we?
Hell yeah.
So, legend has it, pineapple on pizza? Do you like that?
Probably going to get hate for this, but I fucks with pineapple on pizza.
Write them in the comments below, because I don't.
I'll take it. Dude, honestly, it's different. Mind you, I like pizza regardless. One of my favorite meals. Even when I was losing weight. But pineapple on pizza, for some reason, just hits different. Inexplainable.
You know what it is? I used to not like pizza, I have to confess. I only started recently liking pizza because the combination, and it has to be at a specific pizzeria, the ones in New York City. Please and thank you. Those pizzas I like. See now, like anywhere else in the country? No, can't do. Same thing goes for bagels. Can't get a bagel anywhere else. It has to be in New York or New Jersey.
That's true, because when I was in California, I remember I went out for breakfast and they didn't have, or no, they did have bagels, but they tasted like shit. I was like, eh.
Well, I think it has, and anybody correct us in the comments below, but I think it has something to do with the water on this side, like especially New York and Jersey, the water that they use for the making of the dough. I think that has a big like responsibility for these bagels and the process of making them. But I could be wrong, and probably am, but I'm just going by what I heard in the past.
We got better water than everybody else. Bernie Sanders.
We do. The East Coast is better than the West Coast and the Midwest and the South and Alaska and Hawaii. Fight me in the comments below. That's two, Brandon. That's two. Let me write that down.
I don't even need to keep count. He keeps his own count.
I have to. I need to know what MF is going to fight me.
Well, they might fight you after this question.
Oh.
What is a color you find to be an annoying color?
Oh my God, neon green. Like the highlighter color. That shit makes me crazy.
Ugh. I'd have to agree on that.
It's just so bright and obnoxious. It's not funny.
That's like literally makes middle school attire.
Exactly.
Like when someone head to toe, even the socks in highlighter color. To be like, yo, man, drip or drown.
Fortnite, bruh. You gotta do that.
We like Fortnite. Dude, no more Fortnite. Can we just get rid of it? I'm done.
It's a fortune. What is it? How much money does that shit make a year?
Millions.
God bless you guys.
Just from kids taking their mom's credit card.
It's insane. But it's not even like I've played Fortnite in the past. I hate it. I think it is annoying. It's no Call of Duty. Stop trying to make it Call of Duty.
I hate the building. Like, somebody's building a 5-star hotel Trivago. Meanwhile, you're just like, what am I supposed to do?
And I'm running around looking for the shotgun.
Anybody got bandages?
And then when you die, you don't come back, you don't respawn. So that kills me. Then watching other people play. Like some people are ridiculously good. Like I'm proud of you. But like how much time do you have on your hands where you're that good?
How much of a life do you not have?
What Brendan said. Now, sir, I have another interesting, powerful question that I need to look at my thing to read. What do you do when no one else is around?
I smoke weed and watch anime. Period.
Ah,
Don't at me.
well, I can think of one thing that I do, but I ain't gonna say that. However, I dance and sing to myself.
All right. Yo,
That's what I do.
he dances to like anime intros and outros.
No. We listen to like Cardi B.
Oh God.
Just wanted to see your reaction. No, honestly, whatever comes up on my stream that I'm listening to, we'll bump out to it somehow. Unless it's music from like middle school days, 2006.
I usually only sing and dance when I'm like on my way to the gym.
Oh, really?
It's like time to like get amped.
I'm always amped. When I get out of bed in the morning, I'm amped. So I don't have that. But I sing and dance to myself either in the car or at home.
See, other people put on their slippers so they can walk downstairs. RJ puts on tap shoes and starts tap dancing.
Doing the Irish jig.
Good morning.
Singing like Cinderella.
Birds are just chirping around you.
Well, I do have birds in my house, pet birds.
Aha.
Ah, see.
They flock towards you.
They flock towards me. But yeah, that's what I do and no one else is around.
Somebody walks in and just complete switch. Just sitting down on a desk like typing.
Well, my desk is in my room, so no one could see me do that.
You rang?
You rang.
But now, on to our Jabips of the week. Welcome.
Welcome back. If you are the Jabip of the week, we apologize, but at the same time, we don't.
Nope.
So, Brandon, who was your Jabip?
So, I was at work. This actually happened yesterday. And there was this table. They definitely didn't look like they were 21, but they had a few beers. And the kid was kind of talking to the server a little odd for my liking. So what I did was I just watched him. As he finished paying his bill, he comes up to the bar. He's like, "That's a nice polo you got there." I'm like, thanks. And then he looks and he's like, "Where can I get one like that?"
You have to work here, brother.
It's just for staff only, dingus. As everyone else is wearing one. And he's like, "Oh, you know what? I probably could have gotten away with that." He's like, "Oh, my polo sucks. You know, I wish I had a polo like yours." Dude, first off, it's not a polo. It's a damn dress shirt. Like, you button it up, dingus. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll be here tomorrow for breakfast." I'm like, "I won't. Saya the fuck Nara."
Actually, your Jabip beats mine. I have to be honest with you.
Well, what is yours?
Mine was the taxi driver in Brooklyn the other day.
Oh, no.
So I'm driving down, bumping out, dancing in the BMW. And, you know, the lane was ending because they were doing construction. So I gave the two cars in front of me, one being the taxi, plenty of room to merge. You think they did? They didn't. So now I'm coming up. At this point, they're stopping because now they have to merge, but I'm still moving at a pretty decent pace. and he's trying to come in. He opens the window. He's telling me, he's yelling at me, giving me the finger. I'm like, what? At the top of my lungs out the window. He then cuts in behind me, gets in the fast lane, drives up to me and says, fuck me, or fuck you rather. Then I'm like, I fly up to him. I stick my head out the whole, actually, I stick my whole torso out the window. I'm like, sir, I gave you ample time to merge. You did it. So you. And then he sped off. And then eventually traffic kind of broke and it was flowing again. I flew past him, gave him the finger with my big shades on, and got off at my exit. And I was hoping he would follow me just so we could fight.
Where do you think you're going?
Like, I'll go real ratchet on him.
Yeah,
But that's my shit.
that would be a sight to see, honestly.
World
I would
Star,
like
where
pay
you
to see
at?
that. I have not seen RJ like ratchet yet.
No. See, that doesn't come out unless it's necessary. that is something that normal people should never see. Actually, anybody who just walks in being ratchet, like, get out. You only use those in special occasions.
You're clocked out. See ya.
86th.
But RJ, you said you wanted to bring something up that came up recently.
That did. So me and the other day, Lord.
Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery.
me,
Moving
and
on.
me and my friend Miles, we worked together at BMW. We were talking about Hollywood and how different West Coast media is from East Coast media. Now, I've never worked West Coast media. I've only worked in the East Coast, but very briefly nonetheless. There is a fine line between the two. And what I mean is, I worked on a movie over here. It was totally different. Everything was very fast paced. Everyone was very professional. Everyone was very not conservative, but professional, if you get my drift. And things happen very quickly. Like, there's no setbacks. Everything is on budget. Everything's on time. Do this by that time.
1, 2, 3,
great.
go, go, go.
Exactly. See, now, when I worked at the film festival, the West Coast crowd came over. And let me tell you, these people were hard workers, but very depressed. Very, like, in their own little world, has something to say about everything rather than seeing the thing in a big picture. That's what I think the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast is. East Coast can see, I mean, I'm not saying there's not people on this side of the country that don't do what I'm describing, but everything, they have a plan, they have a vision for something. Where in the West Coast, yes, they have a vision, they have a plan, but it's done differently that is really, really, really foreign and very, very weird. And I prefer to work on the East Coast than the West. And fight me in the comments below. It's number 3.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, just from like seeing everything, I took a tour at Universal and Sony Studios in California when I went in 2019 versus the East Coast and how we do things. It's a lot different. There's a whole different atmosphere.
Correct.
In the East Coast, I feel like this is especially a big point to talk about is a lot of the time we shoot on location. New York, for example. California has entire blocks of sets that are supposed to exemplify the city scene. And it's like, no. What?
I mean, I've worked on both with the set and on location. And I have to be honest with you, the set is so much easier because you don't have real world situations going on around you while you're doing your thing. However, it is more authentic to be on location. Like, for example, if you're shooting, let's say, a fantasy, like, you want to be in fantastic location. You got the mountains in the background, you got the lush green forests, the fields, the rivers, or if you're at the ocean, you want the ocean, the beach, like you want those authenticities in your project. Like for
Yeah.
example, like Lord of the Rings, like look at the landscape. That's fantasy to me. But kind of recreating that in a Hollywood studio, you can't. Like the difference. If you're trained on it, you see the difference. If average moviegoer who don't care, well, they don't care. So there's nothing to say.
No, I can agree with that. I mean, you have virtual sets like The Mandalorian that was almost entirely, I think it was more so blue screened, but entirely virtual sets. I mean, you go right into Sony and there are different studios that did different various movies. Whereas in New York, you have Central Park. And it's like you can't imagine the hundreds, maybe even thousands of films that were done right in Central Park.
Yeah.
Or even Times Square. Vanilla Sky,
Times
for
Square,
instance.
Battery Park's a big one. Wall Street is a big one. Central Park, as you said, Hell's Kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Um, Various locations in the Bronx and Brooklyn, a little bit in Queens, Staten Island, not so much, but like it's more like Brendan, like you said, it's location. But again, you still have to deal with the real world as random people walking in that don't see what's going on. They're just doing their business and they walk onto set. And then
Yeah.
you have the crazy people who want to see what's going on, but they overstep their bounds. And you have weather to deal with, and you have traffic that you have to deal with. I mean, shutting down a street in Manhattan could cripple the city. I'm not even kidding. As someone who drives in New York frequently, that sucks. And that pisses me off too.
You mother trucker.
But that's the thing. It's like it seems, but getting back to the point, it seems that the West Coast has a certain way of doing their stuff, and the East Coast has a certain way of doing their stuff. I mean, it's the same concepts, it's just different executions.
Right.
And preferably, I'd like to deal with real world situations on the East Coast than I would the West Coast because everything seems to be fake and depressing. Not saying bad movies came out of there, of course not.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's fake. Where in the East Coast, and if anywhere shot on location has more of a real, authentic feel to it, That's what I like is the realness versus the fake. Fake can go scratch. I'm all down for authenticity.
Yeah. I mean, I know you and I as a partnership for the films that we want to do and projects that we have in store for all of you, we've been contemplating the thought of either doing some stuff in the city or not even the West Coast, like down south, like Georgia. It's really up and coming. That's where a lot of the Marvel movies are done, The Walking Dead, and it's just growing and growing and growing.
I mean, well, that's what's great about down south is the fact that I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I'm going to. It's cheaper to live down there and cheaper to do stuff down there
Yeah,
versus up here or the out in Hollywood. It's just so much cheaper to hire people to do whatever. I mean, it's just cheap. It is what it is. And but it's on location. It's not really in a studio. There are studios down there, but it's still location shooting.
for sure.
Like
You
the
know,
Battle of Wakanda, that was shot outside
yeah, I remember
in
the
Georgia.
actors were like, "Oh my god, it's like 110 out here." And it's like, yeah, same thing with Civil War.
Yeah. Um Again, I like real world shooting, but I could do without the headache of dealing with the real world.
Yeah,
But I mean, in our case, it's easier to do real world situations and shooting because we have such a limited, tiny budget. So it would be impossible in our financial position to rent said studio to work it. And for us to work it by ourselves, we'd never actually get down to making the video, the music video, well, whatever it is, because we have so much setting up to do.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. I mean, I've worked in both. Again, I prefer real, but without the headache.
Well, in the general retrospect, it's one of those double-edged swords where you're going to have pros and cons no matter which method you choose.
Correct.
So it all comes
Also,
down to what you want.
that's the big thing is how the filmmaker. I'm not even gonna say how the filmmaker because if you're just starting out, you don't really have a say. It's more the producer's say.
Yeah,
Obviously, if you're like a Spielberg or Cameron, that's different. But in the case of people who start out, no, it's what the studio says, the producer. So,
I agree.
but but for us, it would just be easier for on-site shipping versus studio.
Yeah.
Is
I
what I
mean,
got at.
no, that's absolutely right. And I feel like a lot of it is also not even just the either the director or the filmmaker, but also the studio as well, with some interference, such as, like, oh, we want you to shoot here. It's like, oh, well, that's not really where my vision is. They're like, well, we're paying you to shoot it here. It's like,
See, that would be my big problem with these people, where I'd be arguing all the time.
mhm.
Like, you hired me to make this, let me make it the way that I envision it.
Yeah.
Look at Star Wars, Rogue One to be exact. How many directors went through that?
I think over 40% of the film was reshot.
I think so.
Uh, the Snyder Cut, again, not to
Ooh.
bring in another example, but
Well, look at Blade Runner's the director's cut.
yep,
The
same
ending of
thing.
that made more sense than the ending of the studio's version. Find me in
Yeah.
the comments below. That's for.
And apparently now, like, since the Snyder Cut came out, people want the David Ayer cut, who directed the Suicide Squad. Um, and they want to see that now, which, a lot of the actors have come out and said, like, that's not going to happen. So you're not going to get an Ayer cut. I always think director's cuts are very interesting, though, just to kind of see the difference in perspective depending on the scenes.
I agree. But sometimes with the director's cut, they put too much in. For example, I know I mentioned it last week with King Kong. They have a director's cut of Peter Jackson's King Kong. They have more in the director's cut, which I like. I personally like that. But for anybody who's watching it, might get a little bored or desensitized with the material because it's just so it's literally thrown in your face for an hour of running
Yeah.
through the jungle and dealing with the animals and monsters that live there. So in a way, there's some movies that like would be good with the director's cut, Schneider cut, for example. But other movies, it's like you're long enough already. You already have your source material, your characters, your plot, your conclusion. You don't need to add more. Like, for example, like Titanic should never have a director's cut. There's so much going on as it is that if you added a director's cut, I wouldn't even watch it. And I love that movie.
Apparently, the It franchise, the newest one, has director's cuts.
Why?
And it's like, eh,
Why?
I don't
It
think
was
anybody wants to see that.
no. I thought the second part of it was so much better than the first part.
See, now I heard last week someone said the opposite.
Really?
They were
Who
like,
the
oh,
fuck?
the first one was so much better than the second.
No, because like I give the kids who acted in that movie so much credit,
Yeah.
but there's some scenes where it's like you could do better, kid. Like I get it, like you're whatever, you're new or you're starting out, you're young, but you could just see in their face like this they're not taking it seriously or whatever. That's how I felt it. And some of the kids like for example, what's his name? He was in Stranger Things.
Oh, Finn Wolfhard.
Like I only see him from Stranger Things. I don't see him as this other character in it. So when he's speaking or cursing, it's like, hey, what? That doesn't make sense.
Well, I feel like that's a trope of today's society when it comes to certain actors and actresses, you don't want to trap yourself into one role because then your versatility and your range is just seen as that one role. You know,
Correct.
like your take on Finn Wolfhard, for example. Same thing with Robert Downey Jr., in my opinion. Before he became Iron Man, he was very versatile. Now I feel like everyone sees him just as Iron Man. And Tom
I see
Holland,
him as
too.
I see him as Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, yeah, Sherlock Holmes, too.
Like I think he played the best Sherlock out of every iteration of him.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Sorry, Mr. Cumberbatch, but Robert Downey Jr. is better. Y'all never comment on this, but I'm just saying it out there for future reference. And if you do, thank you.
Thank you for your support.
But
Appreciate
even you've seen Harry Potter, right?
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know Malfoy, Mr. Malfoy, the senior.
Yeah.
His actor always plays villains. He is always playing a villain. He was the villain in The Patriot. He was the Inquisitor in Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon show, the cartoon. Brandon's looking at me like, what?
Well, no, I'm trying to think of like his entire filmography while I think you're right.
He plays a lot of villains. Um, who else plays a lot of villains?
Um
Shit, I'm drawing a blank.
what's his name? He was also in Rogue One. Uh I think it's Ben Mendelsohn.
What character did he play in Rogue One?
He was part of the
Not Krennic, right?
uh I don't remember his name. But anyway, in Captain Marvel, he played Talos, who was quote the villain. Um, in case you haven't seen it, in The Dark Knight Rises, he was it John Daggett? Anyway, he was a corrupt guy. But in my perspective, villains are harder to find than the hero.
I could play a villain. If anyone wants to cast me as a villain, please do it.
But it's
I'd
also
be
hard to
professional.
find someone who can play both.
Well, that's the awesome part. Like Denzel Washington can play both.
Christoph Waltz too.
Oh, Christoph Waltz,
Oh
Hans
yeah.
Lada. That character literally scares me.
Au revoir, so should
It's well, Quentin Tarantino is a genius, but Christoph Waltz, damn, damn.
Samuel L. Jackson too. Now that I think about it.
Oh, again, another Quentin Tarantino situation.
Mm-hmm.
Django Unchained. He played that freaking bad. I don't even know what to call him because he wasn't really a slave, but
Mm-mm.
I don't know what he was. He was bad. He was bad,
He was a
and you
bad
know he
man.
was bad, and he played so good in that movie. But then again, you have the Hateful Eight, where he then is playing a not a hero, so to speak, because none of them are really heroes in that movie, but he's still playing a protagonist.
Right.
So it's amazing the switch. Same thing with Robert Downey Jr. No, I'm sorry. Oh my God, Robert De Niro. Jesus, see, Robert's getting screwed up.
Well, now that you actually mentioned Robert Downey Jr., I feel like that's also a good example.
Really?
He was the villain, kind of, in a movie with Tommy Lee Jones, um, called U.S. Marshals, and he ended up being the villain. And I think he actually did a decent job.
Where's another? There's so many movies that I watched. It's ridiculous. Uh,
That's the business we do.
like I said, Denzel Washington can play a chameleon.
Oh
Meryl
yeah.
Streep,
Yep.
she's a chameleon. Um, not so much Tom Hanks. He's always the good guy. Uh, I'm drawing a blank with a lot of these people. Actually, I just saw a movie recently on Netflix with Peter Dinklage in it,
Hmm.
and he's usually like, if you watch Game of Thrones, he's Tyrion Lannister,
Yeah.
and he was the wise protagonist, and he was the villain in this movie, and it was very weird seeing the transition, but he did it very well. Good job.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, Pedro Pascal. That's
Mm,
another good one that can play both the hero and the villain. Oscar Isaac too.
yeah, you're right.
Both of them like very skilled. I
You're
only
right. You're
dream to
right.
be on that level.
Get there, my man. Oh, excuse me. You gotta get there. I think but we just started rambling about actors, villains, and heroes.
It's all part of the work.
Do you have anything else to talk about this evening, Brendan?
I think it is the end of episode 7.
Episode 7 has concluded. Thank you all for tuning in. Take it away there, sir.
Make sure you guys like, favorite, share with your friends, family, whomever. Subscribe to any of the 23 platforms that we have. 23.
Make sure you like us on Pandora, because I only listen to Pandora.
We're watching you. Hoping for another dollar.
Please. Namaste, please.
Please. But anyway, that wraps up episode 7. Thank you guys for watching. And until next time, we'll see you.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah.